The chamber of the Council of Seven Stars glowed with cold, crystalline light, each shard of illumination refracting across the polished obsidian walls. Dozens of alien dignitaries sat in their high-backed thrones, their varied forms bristling with authority and disdain. At the center, looming above the assembly, stood Commander Jorthkal, armored in silver plates etched with symbols of conquest. His voice carried the weight of centuries of victories as he declared, "The species known as humans must be contained. They are reckless, uncontrollable, and dangerously resilient. If left unchecked, they will poison this galaxy with their violence. We will not wait for them to grow stronger. We strike now." No one in the chamber disagreed. Images flickered across hovering displays, grainy records of human conflicts, wars fought with fire, steel, and gunpowder. To the Council, it was evidence of barbarity. To humans it was just history. With unanimous assent, the Council proclaimed war against Earth. They imagined fear spreading across the planet, surrender inevitable once their fleets arrived. They expected a race of short-lived mammals to crumble before the weight of galactic power. On Earth, however, the announcement landed differently. In a dusty training yard outside a marine base in Nevada, Captain Marcus Vance listened to the translated message on a crackling speaker. The alien's voice was deep, resonant, almost theatrical. Words like eradicate and annihilate hung in the air. Vance snorted, spit a line of sweat onto the dirt and muttered, "Well, that's new. Usually it's politicians declaring budget cuts, not alien overlords." Sergeant Tom Reyes, standing beside him with arms folded, let out a dry chuckle. "Guess we'll have to cancel taco night." His eyes, dark and sharp, scanned the squad assembled before them. A dozen Marines, stripped down to sweat-drenched shirts, stood at attention as though this were another drill. Private Daniel Holt, the youngest among them, shifted nervously. He was tall, with the awkward energy of someone trying to grow into his own skin. His voice cracked slightly when he asked, "Sir, are they serious? Like actual aliens just declared war on humanity?" "They're serious," Vance replied, pacing in front of the men. His gait was relaxed, casual, but his eyes gleamed with something else, anticipation. "Thing is, so are we. And unlike them, we've been practicing for this since the day we learned how to throw rocks at each other." He stopped, facing Holt directly. "Scared, Private?" Holt swallowed. "Not scared. Just surprised." "Good," Vance said. "Surprise is healthy. Keeps you sharp. Just don't let it turn into panic. Panic gets people killed. Surprise gets people creative." The squad broke into low laughter, the kind that comes not from amusement but from shared defiance. Reyes stepped forward, voice raised enough for everyone to hear. "So the big scary aliens think we're dangerous. Hell, for once they're right. But you know what else they don't understand? We don't treat war like an apocalypse. We treat it like a workout." Someone in the back muttered, "Guess we're upping the reps." The laughter grew louder this time, full of energy. Holt looked around, confused by how lightly his comrades were taking the news. The aliens had declared extermination, yet here were Marines cracking jokes about exercise routines. He expected dread. Instead, he found a strange sort of exhilaration radiating from them. Later that night, as the desert air cooled, Vance sat with Reyes outside the barracks. A half-empty bottle of bourbon rested between them, though neither was particularly drunk. The stars overhead burned bright, ancient and indifferent. "You buy it?" Reyes asked. "Buy what?" "That we can take them. I mean, we're good, Marcus, but we're talking whole fleets out there. Stuff we've never seen before." Vance tilted his head back, studying the constellations like they were old sparring partners. "Doesn't matter what toys they bring. You ever notice, Tom, every time someone comes along saying humans are too wild to control, they end up proving themselves right? Romans said it about the Gauls. Empire said it about rebels. Hell, history's just a list of people underestimating us until it's too late." He paused, a grin tugging at his lips. "So no, I don't just buy it, I'm betting the house on it." Reyes shook his head, but his smirk betrayed his agreement. Meanwhile, across light years, Commander Jorthkal stood on the bridge of his flagship, gazing at projections of Earth. He had fought dozens of campaigns, crushed hundreds of species. This, he thought, would be no different. "They fight amongst themselves," he told his officers. "They waste strength on trivial conflicts. When true power confronts them, they will break. It is the way of primitives." Yet even as he said it, faint doubt flickered in the silence of his command chamber. His adjutant, a tall insectoid with shimmering carapace, hesitated before asking, "And if they do not break?" Jorthkal's lip curled in disdain. "Then they will learn why resistance is folly. No prey escapes the predator. Back on Earth, Holt sat alone in his bunk, scribbling in a small notebook he carried everywhere. His handwriting was uneven, hurried. He wrote about the fear he tried to hide, about the pressure of being young in a war he had not expected. But he also wrote about Vance, about Reyes, about the strange humor that seemed to turn dread into something else. The words on the page steadied him. Training intensified in the following days. While news networks replayed the Council's declaration with grim commentary, the Marines in Vance's unit pushed themselves harder than ever. Morning runs turned into sprints under desert heat. Sparring sessions grew more brutal, every punch and kick thrown with the urgency of survival. Ammunition drills became competitions, with men laughing as they shaved seconds from reload times. To outside eyes, it might have looked like desperation. To them it was preparation. During one sparring session, Holt found himself facing Reyes. The sergeant's strikes came fast, precise, almost lazy in their efficiency. Holt stumbled, caught a fist to the shoulder and barely stayed upright. Reyes grinned at him. "You're too stiff, kid. You're thinking like you're fighting for your life. That's the mistake. Don't fight not to die. Fight like you're trying to get better." Holt frowned, gasping for air. Better? Against aliens with ships the size of cities? Exactly, Reyes said, circling him. You don't train for the weight you can already lift. You train for the weight that should crush you. And then one day it doesn't. Something shifted in Holt's eyes then, a small flicker of understanding. He squared his stance, this time not with fear but with determination. By the end of the week, orbital sensors detected the first alien fleet entering the outer solar system. Governments scrambled, stock markets crashed, civilians stockpiled supplies. In underground bunkers, world leaders debated evacuation contingencies. In military bases, however, the mood was different. On the morning of the fleet's approach, Vance stood before his men in full combat gear. The desert wind whipped dust across the training yard, carrying with it the distant hum of tension. "Listen up," Vance said, voice steady and loud. "The galaxy just handed us the best damn training scenario in human history. They think this is war. I say it's an exam. And I don't know about you, but I plan on passing." Reyes let out a bark of laughter. "Passing? I'm aiming for extra credit." The squad roared with approval, even Holt joining in. Their faces gleamed with sweat and grit, but also with something more dangerous, eagerness. Somewhere far above, in the black between worlds, alien ships streaked toward Earth with weapons primed. Their commanders expected terror, chaos, capitulation. What they would find instead were humans grinning like madmen, ready to meet annihilation as if it were a warm-up drill. As Vance tightened the strap on his helmet, he muttered under his breath, just loud enough for Reyes to hear, "Finally, some decent practice." And with that, the first alien war fleet descended upon a planet that did not know how to surrender. The first strike came before dawn, a shimmering ripple across the Nevada sky that split the atmosphere with searing blue light. Alien warships, sleek and jagged like knives of obsidian, descended in formation, their weapons discharging beams that melted steel and glass into molten rivers. Entire air bases crumbled in seconds. Civilians screamed through emergency channels. The Council's opening move was not conquest, it was intimidation, a show of power designed to crush human will before the real battle began. But will was the one thing humans had never learned to surrender. Captain Marcus Vance stood in the open air as explosions thundered in the distance, the horizon glowing like a sunrise of fire. The men around him snapped into motion without hesitation. Trucks roared to life. Ammunition crates were hauled into bunkers. Communications relays flickered with static. It looked chaotic to an outsider, but to Vance, it was symphony. He barked orders that cut through the noise like blades. "Reyes, get the squad into cover and prep defensive lines. Holt, you're with me. Eyes sharp." Sergeant Tom Reyes moved with calm efficiency, rallying the others with a grin that looked almost inappropriate against the backdrop of war. "You heard the man. Let's turn this desert into a gym. Sandbags, foxholes, firing arcs. Move like you mean it." Private Daniel Holt sprinted at Vance's side, heart hammering so loudly he thought the aliens might hear it. He tried to mask his nerves, but Vance noticed. The captain's voice was low and steady. "Breathe, kid. This isn't the end of the world. It's just the first round." The alien fleet began its bombardment in earnest. Precision strikes hit command centers, fuel depots, radar installations. Yet where the Council expected panicked retreats, they saw humans charging toward the fire. Infantry units dashed into collapsing hangars to salvage weapons. Engineers repurposed damaged vehicles into makeshift turrets. Medics patched wounds under falling debris while shouting for the wounded to get back on their feet. Every act of survival looked less like desperation and more like determination. From the bridge of his flagship, Commander Jorthkal observed the battlefield through a vast tactical display. Icons representing human forces flickered and scattered like ants fleeing a torch. He expected them to dissolve within minutes. Instead, they regrouped in patterns his analysts struggled to predict. They counterattacked in pockets, not with strategy but with audacity, launching skirmishes against armored walkers, throwing grenades into energy shields, even attempting to board landed skiffs with nothing but rifles and knives. "What are they doing?" his adjutant hissed. "They should be broken." "They are stalling," Jorthkal said, though his voice lacked certainty. "Primitives thrash when cornered. It will not last." Back on Earth, Vance's unit held their position on the outskirts of the base as alien infantry advanced. The enemy were tall, muscular beings encased in segmented armor, their movements deliberate and disciplined. Energy rifles pulsed with deadly precision, cutting through walls and bodies alike. Against such overwhelming firepower, a normal force might have collapsed. Vance's men laughed. "Look at these clowns," Reyes muttered between bursts of gunfire. "All dressed up like they're auditioning for a space opera." Bullets tore across the battlefield, slamming into alien shields that shimmered with crackling energy. Holt ducked behind cover, fumbling to reload, his hands shaking until Vance clapped a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Don't aim for the armor. Watch their feet, where the shield bends. Adapt, Holt. Every problem's just a puzzle." Holt gritted his teeth, steadied his rifle and fired. The shot slipped under a shimmering barrier and dropped an alien where it stood. For the first time, Holt felt the strange exhilaration the others carried. Fear transformed into challenge. As the firefight raged, Reyes radioed updates. "Left flank holding. Ammo's running low, but the boys are making every shot count. Hell, Alvarez just took one down with a wrench." "Good," Vance said, reloading with mechanical calm. "The more they throw at us, the stronger we get." It was true. Each minute of survival sharpened the Marines. Mistakes became lessons. Every alien tactic was analyzed, countered, and mocked. Their technology was advanced, yes, but not incomprehensible. Soldiers salvaged discarded rifles, testing their weight, their charge cycles, their recoil. Within hours, humans were firing alien weapons back at their owners with reckless delight. News feeds across the planet captured fragments of the battle. To civilians, it looked impossible. Men and women fighting armored giants with grins on their faces. Commentators spoke of heroism, resilience, madness. The aliens, listening to intercepted broadcasts, could not decide which word fit. At dusk, Vance's squad pushed through the smoking ruins of the airfield. They had lost men but not morale. Holt walked with a limp, dust and blood streaking his face, yet his expression was firm. Reyes slapped him on the back. "Not bad for your first day at the gym, kid." "It's not over," Holt said quietly. "Exactly," Reyes replied. "It's never over. That's the point." From orbit, Jorthkal reviewed casualty reports. Dozens of his vanguard units destroyed. Entire squads wiped out by what should have been an inferior force. He slammed a clawed hand against the console, snarling. This was supposed to be decisive. Why are they still standing? His adjutant hesitated. "Commander, they are not simply enduring. They are improving." Jorthkal bared his teeth. "Then we will crush them harder. Prepare the second wave. I want Earth buried under fire until nothing remains." On the ground, Vance gathered his men as the sun bled across the horizon. The battlefield smelled of scorched metal and burned ozone, but the air vibrated with something stronger than fear. "You all saw it," Vance said, voice steady despite exhaustion. "They threw their best at us and we're still breathing. That means they're not gods. They're just another obstacle. And obstacles are meant to be broken." Reyes leaned against a chunk of shattered concrete, grinning through the dirt on his face. "So what you're saying, Captain, is this was just the warm-up?" "Exactly," Vance said. He looked toward the sky, where streaks of alien reinforcements glowed like falling stars. His smile was grim, hungry. "Round two's coming. Let's make sure we're ready." Above them, the second fleet descended. Where the first attack had been meant to frighten, this one was designed to annihilate. Thousands of ships, larger and deadlier, poured into the atmosphere. Civilians huddled in fear, leaders argued in bunkers, but the Marines tightened their gear and checked their weapons with steady hands. Private Holt felt the weight of what was coming. His pulse quickened, but this time it was not panic, it was anticipation. He thought back to Rhea's words, You don't train for the weight you can already lift. You train for the weight that should crush you. He clenched his fists, ready to carry it. The ground trembled with the thunder of engines. Shadows swallowed the desert. Alien war machines descended, massive constructs of steel and fire. And there, in the dust and smoke, a handful of humans stood unbroken, grinning like madmen at the impossible storm bearing down. The first wave had been survival. The second would be something else entirely. Bullets tore across the battlefield, slamming into alien shields that shimmered with crackling energy. Holt ducked behind cover, fumbling to reload, his hands shaking until Vance clapped a steadying hand on his shoulder. Don't aim for the armor. Watch their feet, where the shield bends. Adapt, Holt. Every problem's just a puzzle. Holt gritted his teeth, steadied his rifle, and fired. The shot slipped under a shimmering barrier and dropped an alien where it stood. For the first time, Holt felt the strange exhilaration the others carried. Fear transformed into challenge. As the firefight raged, Reyes radioed updates. Left flank holding. Ammo's running low, but the boys are making every shot count. Hell, Alvarez just took one down with a wrench. Good, Vance said, reloading with mechanical calm. The more they throw at us, the stronger we get. It was true. Each minute of survival sharpened the Marines. Mistakes became lessons. Every alien tactic was analyzed, countered, and mocked. Their technology was advanced, yes, but not incomprehensible. Soldiers salvaged discarded rifles, testing their weight, their charge cycles, their recoil. Within hours, humans were firing alien weapons back at their owners with reckless delight. News feeds across the planet captured fragments of the battle. To civilians, it looked impossible. Men and women fighting armored giants with grins on their faces. Commentators spoke of heroism, resilience, madness. The aliens, listening to intercepted broadcasts, could not decide which word fit. At dusk, Vance's squad pushed through the smoking ruins of the airfield. They had lost men but not morale. Holt walked with a limp, dust and blood streaking his face, yet his expression was firm. Reyes slapped him on the back. Not bad for your first day at the gym, kid. It's not over, Holt said quietly. Exactly, Reyes replied. It's never over. That's the point. From orbit, Jorethkal reviewed casualty reports. Dozens of his vanguard units destroyed. Entire squads wiped out by what should have been an inferior force. He slammed a clawed hand against the console, snarling. This was supposed to be decisive. Why are they still standing? His adjutant hesitated. Commander, they are not simply enduring. They are improving. Jorethkal bared his teeth. Then we will crush them harder. Prepare the second wave. I want Earth buried under fire until nothing remains. On the ground, Vance gathered his men as the sun bled across the horizon. The battlefield smelled of scorched metal and burned ozone, but the air vibrated with something stronger than fear. You all saw it, Vance said, voice steady despite exhaustion. They threw their best at us and we're still breathing. That means they're not gods. They're just another obstacle. And obstacles are meant to be broken. Reyes leaned against a chunk of shattered concrete, grinning through the dirt on his face. So what you're saying, Captain, is this was just the warm-up? Exactly, Vance said. He looked toward the sky, where streaks of alien reinforcements glowed like falling stars. His smile was grim, hungry. Round two's coming. Let's make sure we're ready. Above them, the second fleet descended. Where the first attack had been meant to frighten, this one was designed to annihilate. Thousands of ships, larger and deadlier, poured into the atmosphere. Civilians huddled in fear, leaders argued in bunkers, but the Marines tightened their gear and checked their weapons with steady hands. Private Holt felt the weight of what was coming. His pulse quickened, but this time it was not panic, it was anticipation. He thought back to Rhea's words, "You don't train for the weight you can already lift. You train for the weight that should crush you." He clenched his fists, ready to carry it. The ground trembled with the thunder of engines. Shadows swallowed the desert. Alien war machines descended, massive constructs of steel and fire. And there, in the dust and smoke, a handful of humans stood unbroken, grinning like madmen at the impossible storm bearing down. The first wave had been survival. The second would be something else entirely. The pod slammed into the ship's hull, tearing metal like paper. Marines poured out, rifles blazing, grenades bouncing off walls. Alarms howled as corridors filled with smoke and blood. Alien officers shrieked in disbelief. Primitive humans should not have breached a vessel of this magnitude. Vance led from the front, moving with ruthless efficiency. Reyes covered flanks with bursts of fire, shouting insults louder than his rifle. Holt stayed close, absorbing every detail, every tactic, fighting with growing confidence. Each step forward felt impossible, yet they kept moving, carving a path through a warship designed to withstand armies. When they reached the command deck, Jorthkal himself was there, his silver armor gleaming in the chaos. His eyes burned with fury as he drew a blade longer than a man's arm. "You dare board my ship?" he roared, voice echoing through the chamber. "You dare sully the pride of the council?" Vance leveled his rifle at him. "We're Marines. Daring is kind of our thing." The clash that followed was raw and vicious. Jorthkal moved with the speed of a predator, his blade carving arcs of fire. Vance ducked, fired, rolled, each motion driven by decades of combat experience. Reyes flanked, drawing fire away, while Holt laid down suppressive bursts that kept the alien guards pinned. The fight stretched on, neither side yielding. At last, Vance landed a shot that shattered part of Jorthkal's armor, staggering him. But before the Marines could press the advantage, alarms blared louder. The ship's core was destabilizing. The firefight had damaged critical systems. "Captain?" Holt shouted, eyes wide as panels sparked. "She's gonna blow." Vance hesitated for only a second. His instincts screamed to finish the kill, but survival demanded otherwise. He signaled the retreat, his voice steady even as flames licked the walls. "Move. We'll get him next time." The squad sprinted back to their pod, dragging wounded, leaping over debris as the ship shuddered violently. Behind them, Jorthkal staggered upright, fury etched into every line of his face. The pod detached just as the vessel erupted, a bloom of fire painting the void. From orbit, alien fleets watched in horror as one of their command ships was obliterated, not by a rival empire, but by a handful of humans who treated the impossible as another training exercise. Inside the pod, breathless and battered, the Marines sat in stunned silence. Then Reyes started laughing, loud and unrestrained. "We just blew up a damn battleship. With 10 guys in a stolen shuttle." Holt leaned back, chest heaving, a shaky grin spreading across his soot-streaked face. "Sir, that was insane." Vance stared out the viewport, watching fragments of alien metal tumble into the void. His lips curved into a grim smile. "Insane? No kid. That was practice." And as the pod streaked back toward Earth, carrying legends in the making, the Alien Council prepared its deadliest move yet, a strike that would test not just humanity's strength, but its very survival. The storm of war thundered across Earth's skies, though to many humans it still looked like another day of drills. Admiral Grant stood at the tactical table aboard the orbital carrier Resolute, his weathered face lit by the glow of the holographic battlefield. Around him, officers barked updates as alien fleets pushed deeper into the system. But Grant's expression was not despair, it was the tight-lipped grin of a man watching a plan unfold exactly as intended. Below, in the deserts of Nevada, Marcus Hale and his fellow soldiers braced in their exosuits as the first wave of Dravari assault craft cut through the atmosphere. The enemy's weapons tore trenches into the earth, and yet the humans moved with choreographed precision, their formations shifting as if the chaos was nothing more than another live-fire exercise. Their comms crackled with calm banter, voices hard with discipline but still carrying that distinctly human irreverence. "Guess training just got live ammo," Marcus muttered as his HUD highlighted incoming targets. His pulse steadied, not spiked, at the sight of monstrous alien infantry pouring from their landing crafts. His grip tightened around the railgun, but his smile held. From orbit, the Dravari command ships observed the engagement, confusion rippling through their ranks. Their intelligence reports had described humans as reckless, chaotic, unpredictable. What they saw instead were soldiers who met annihilation with terrifying composure. The aliens' opening barrage, meant to shatter morale, had been absorbed, adapted to, countered in ways their war doctrine did not anticipate. Grant's fleet made its first decisive strike, not a desperate counterattack but a calculated response. Swarms of unmanned drones lit up the void, darting between alien cruisers with surgical precision. Explosions blossomed across the dark canvas of space, controlled and deliberate. For every Dravari ship destroyed, the humans advanced, not in frenzy but with the patient brutality of a species who had long ago made training synonymous with survival. Back on Earth, Marcus and his team surged forward. The battlefield was a cacophony of plasma fire and rail slugs, but his mind filtered the noise, his every move guided by years of relentless drills. He remembered the endless nights on the training grounds where instructors had screamed at them to keep fighting long after exhaustion set in. Now, in the real war, he realized those instructors had not been preparing them for some hypothetical conflict. They had been preparing them for this. A Dravari soldier lunged at Marcus, towering, armored, and snarling in a language thick with hatred. Marcus pivoted, drove his blade through its joint, and kicked the alien down without breaking stride. His voice cut into comms. "Keep pushing. They bleed like anyone else." The tide began to shift. The Dravari had superior numbers, superior firepower, and yet their offensive momentum faltered. Every ambush was countered, every feint dissected. Where the Dravari sought to overwhelm, the humans endured. Where the aliens expected retreat, the humans advanced with surgical strikes. Panic spread through the alien ranks, not because of human technology but because of human psychology. Admiral Grant leaned over the tactical table, his gravelly voice carrying authority. "They came expecting to fight soldiers. What they got are survivors. Remind them why training isn't just drills for us, it's who we are." The fleet pressed deeper, tearing through supply lines, forcing the Dravari command to split resources between Earth and orbital combat. The invaders had launched their campaign to demonstrate dominance, but in every encounter humanity revealed a harsher truth. Earth's defenders had never been practicing. They had always been at war even in peace. On the ground, Marcus's unit finally reached the smoking husks of alien landing craft. He planted the human flag in the soil beside the wreckage, his chest heaving. Around him, men who had been written off as fragile and undisciplined stood tall, weapons ready, eyes burning with a fire that even exhaustion could not dim. The Dravari commander, orbiting above, struggled to comprehend. This was not how wars were supposed to be fought. Enemies were supposed to break, to beg, to collapse under pressure. Yet here stood humanity, treating annihilation as another obstacle, another lesson, another drill. And then the humans struck the decisive blow. The Resolute and its sister carriers executed a maneuver so audacious it bordered on insanity, slingshotting through Earth's gravity well to launch a surprise strike against the enemy command vessel. Alien crews scrambled, their systems overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of human tactics. Explosions ripped through the Dravari fleet, and the command structure collapsed in real time. Marcus watched as the alien formations above fractured, ships retreating in disarray. His voice, low but firm, carried across the comms. "They thought this was war. For us this was just training." The words spread like wildfire across human channels, soldiers repeating it with grim pride. In every city, every battlefield, the phrase became a rallying cry. The Dravari retreat turned into a rout, their war effort undone not by superior weapons, but by the unshakable resolve of the human spirit. In orbit, Admiral Grant allowed himself a moment of silence. His jaw tightened as he considered the aftermath. Humanity had won, but the cost was yet to be tallied. Still, he knew one truth above all others. The universe would never look at Earth the same way again. They had come to conquer a species they thought soft, untested, and weak. Instead, they had awakened warriors forged by hardship, molded by history, and bound by an unbreakable instinct to survive. As the last alien ship vanished into the dark, Grant looked down at the blue planet below, scarred but unbowed. "Training's over," he muttered to himself. "Now they know what war really is." And for the first time since the invasion began, the galaxy trembled, not for Earth's survival but for its inevitable rise.